bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right. How you doing? How you doing? That's the question. That's right. This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Wednesday, June 14th, 164 days into the new year. Just 201 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Big show tonight. Yeah, let's get straight to it. Tonight, it's our roundtable discussion. Has our UFO community been infiltrated? We have put together 10 of the very best professionals in our community. We have tonight on the show the executive director of MUFON, Jan Harzan, is going to be here. The director of the National UFO Reporting Center, Peter Davenport, is here. From the Huffington Post, Lee Speigel. Author and show host, Micah Hanks. Author and researcher, Mike Bara. KGRA General Manager, Hobbs. Show host and witness to Rendlesham, John Burroughs. Producer of Coast to Coast AM, Tom Danheiser. And director of UPARS Los Angeles, Steve Murillo. Now, more on this in just a minute, but get ready, because tonight the question will be answered. Has the UFO community been infiltrated? And I'll just remind you, tomorrow night is another Fader Night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live, which is followed by open lines all night long, and I'm sure it will be a lively discussion tomorrow night. Obviously, we have a packed show tonight. The format is going to be, we will bring on 2 guests every half hour. Okay, we can't bring on 10 people all at the same time. Why? Because that would just be a mess. And that's not how you do radio. Okay, so we're going to bring on 2 guests every half hour all the way to the bloody end of the show. Okay, follow us on Twitter, at JChurchRadio, Facebook, YouTube, everything is Fade to Black. Just go over to our website, click on those 3 little buttons. You can follow, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Everything is there. If you want to hang out in the sandbox tonight, use hashtag F2B on Twitter. Now, for those of you that are tuning into the show tonight for the first time, remember, this show is live. We have lots of ways to participate during the show. We have the chat room over at KGRA. You can go there. There's a chat room on Spreaker. You may go there. There is Twitter. We use the hashtag F2B. That is our feed on Twitter. We will bust through on a normal night 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 tweets with the audience. Tonight, it's probably going to be a much more livelier discussion. But to get in on that, I keep Twitter live to my right. It's right here. If you're watching me on the Bunker Cam and the live studio feeds right now on video, you can see that I am looking at Twitter right now. Twitter is right there. We also have email, jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Make the email good. It will get past our producers here and make it way in here to me into the studio. And I will be able to read your email. And if it's a question, I'll read that live on the air. If you have any questions during the show, I have another Twitter feed that is live to my right. That is hashtag F2BQ. Just use hashtag F2BQ. Post the question there. I'll see it in real time on the show. Everything here, the chat rooms, Twitter, email is all live right in front of me. And this is an interactive show. Always has been, always will be. You, the audience, can participate in the show in real time. Okay? All right. Let's get the show cracking. Breaking news, actually, and I can't really move on in tonight's broadcast without commenting about what happened this morning in Washington, D.C., where a lone gunman shot up the GOP baseball team's practice, shooting 5 people before he was shot and killed by police. And for me and for the rest of the country, a totally uncool event, and it wasn't the way to start the day. All right, so if you don't know about that, yes, it happened this morning. We don't do politics on this show, but it just makes you question everything once again about the mood of the world, if you will. Okay, don't forget, you can subscribe to our podcast. We have over 670 archive shows. Go to jimmychurchradio.com. It's only $2 a month. No big deal. All apps are there, Apple and Android, everything that you need. You just go and click on the banners at Jimmy Church Radio. Or you can become a member for the show and get, commercial-free archives, and you get the Bunker Cam, live studio feeds, private email to me, T-shirts, autographed hats, all that stuff. Plus, we give away lots of cool stuff every single month. This month, we'll be giving away Get the Tea, Life Change Tea Care Package. Last month, we gave away a coffee bar. Month before that, a stereo system, a Bluetooth stereo system. So every month is something cool. Okay, so you can go and do that in our membership area. And visit all of our sponsors. This is a live radio broadcast. That's how we run this show, is with some of the most amazing sponsors out there, like Life Change Tea, River Moon Coffee, and Studio Dome speakers. Okay? Quick note, this Saturday, I will be speaking at the Disclosure Fest in downtown Los Angeles. It's the Mass Meditation Initiative, and it's this Saturday, June 17th, the Los Angeles State Historic Park in downtown Los Angeles. Tickets are free. So all you have to do is go and register at disclosurefest.com. It's a free event. Thousands of people, main stages, tents, lectures, meditations, music, food. It's all going on in downtown Los Angeles. It's going to be an amazing event. I'll be speaking at around noon on the main stage there, so come and hang out with us. And don't forget, at the end of this month, we will be up at the ECETI Ranch for their July 4th Science, Spirit, and World Transformation Conference. Just click on the banner over at our site at jimmychurchradio.com for tickets and info. I'll be speaking Saturday and Sunday, but of course, that's cool, but it's the night vision. It's what goes on there. It's going to be an amazing event. It's a bucket list for me and Rita, so come and hang out with us July 4th weekend up at the ECETI Ranch. All right, let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today. That's right, I'm going to say it. Boy George today is 56. I did. Okay, so I said it. Whatever. Sue me. But Faison Love today is 49. Big perm. I mean, big worm. That's right. Faison Love today is 49. Our dead guy's birthday today. We always do it. Today it's Che Guevara. 1928 to 1967. Died at the age of 39. Yes, I get it. He helped overthrow the Cuban government in the 26th of July movement back in 1959. Whatever. Don't care. But he has become an icon all over the world. For what? No, not for his past. Nobody knows about his past, unless you've seen Motorcycle Diaries. No. He is known the world over for selling more T-shirts than anybody that I know. Happy birthday, Che Guevara. On this day in history, OTD, 1951, the United States Census Bureau dedicates the UNIVAC. That's right, the world's first commercially produced electronic digital computer. UNIVAC, which stood for the Universal Automatic Computer, was developed by J. Presper Eckert and John Macaulay, makers of the ENIAC, the first general-purpose electronic digital computer. But whenever I hear about the UNIVAC or ENIAC, I think of my computer teacher back in high school in the Canal Zone. His name was Raymond Dragseth, one of the coolest guys I ever knew. One of the great teachers that I had growing up, and I've never forgotten that guy. He was just amazing. But he was killed by the Panamanian forces during Operation Just Cause in December 1989. My computer teacher, for no reason, they just knew that he was an American, and the Panamanian forces came and kicked down the front door to his apartment, dragged him out, shot and killed him, and buried him in a shallow grave next to Canal Zone College. And what a way to go, and it just breaks my heart. So there you go. There's my little dedication to Raymond Dragseth. Truly one cool dude. All right. Fader fact. The British pound. This is a fact now. You can go vet this. The British pound is the world's oldest currency still in use. It is over 1,200 years old. And that is a Fader fact. All right. Well, tonight it is our roundtable discussion. Has our UFO community been infiltrated? Yes, we have put together 10 of the very best professionals in our community. Tonight we will have on the director of MUFON, Jan Harzan. He's going to be here. Director of New Fork, Peter Davenport, is going to be here. From the Huffington Post, Lee Speigel, author, show host, Micah Hanks. Mike Bara is going to be here. KGRA General Manager, Hobbs. Witness to Rendlesham, John Burroughs. Producer of Coast to Coast AM, Tom Danheiser. And Director of UPARS, Steve Murillo. And it is going to be one of those shows. And more on that in just a bit. So just stay put. But before we get to the roundtable, a little story broke today that you probably didn't see. So let me help you with this to kind of set the tone. I want everybody to be uplifted. All right. I want you to feel good. Flowers hanging out of your pockets. Let's throw some rose petals out there on the floor of life. Because it seems that Elon Musk has put his Mars colonization vision to paper, and you can read it now for free. SpaceX's billionaire founder and CEO just published the plan, which he unveiled at a conference in Mexico back in September 2016. And it's posted in the journal New Space. His commentary, titled Making Humanity a Multiplanetary Species, is available for free on the New Space's website. You can go there. Musk Mars vision centers on a reusable rocket and spaceship combo that he's dubbed the Interplanetary Transport System, or the ITS. Both the booster and the spaceship will be powered by SpaceX's Raptor engine, which is still in development, by the way, and he says will be about 3 times stronger than the Merlin engines that power the company's Falcon 9 rocket. Now, the booster, with its 42 Raptors, will be the most powerful rocket in history, by far, by a long shot. It will be capable of launching 330 tons into low Earth orbit, or 600 tons in an expendable variant. For comparison, by the way, NASA's famous Saturn V rocket, the current record holder, could loft just 150 tons. The ITS rockets will launch the spaceships into Earth orbit, then come back down for a pinpoint landing about 20 minutes later. And by pinpoint, I'm not exaggerating here. Okay? With the addition of maneuvering thrusters, they think that they can actually put the booster right back on the launch pad. He wrote about all of this in the New Space paper, citing SpaceX's increasingly precise Falcon 9 first-stage landings, and they have been impressive. The ITS boosters will launch many spaceships and fuel tankers to orbit over the course of their operational lives. The rockets will be designed to fly about 1,000 times each. The spaceships, meanwhile, will hang out in Earth orbit and then depart en masse when Earth and Mars align. This happens about every 26 months. We talk about this all the time on the show. Eventually, he envisions 1,000 or more ITS spaceships, each carrying 100 or more people, leaving Earth orbit during each of these Mars windows. The architecture would conceivably get 1 million people to Mars within the next 50 to 100 years. Now, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? The ships would also fly back from Mars using their 9 Raptor engines and methane-based propellant that was manufactured on the Red Planet. Each ITS ship would probably be able to make 12 to 15 deep space journeys during its operational life. And each fuel tanker could likely fly to Earth orbit 100 or so times. Now listen to me. The ITS reusability is key. It's key to making Mars colonization affordable. This reusability, combined with other measures such as fueling the spaceships in Earth orbit and making propellant on Mars, could bring the price of a red planet trip down to about $200,000. Now, think about this. Well, that's per person. That's per ticket. From an estimated $10 billion right now using conventional spacecraft systems. ITS spaceships would begin flying to Mars in about 10 years. And if everything goes well, right, it could happen. But he did acknowledge that success is far from guaranteed. So there you go. And that's pretty exciting news. And it just went under the radar today. And unless you were looking for it, you didn't see it. It's a pretty amazing paper, and I read through the entire thing, and you need to go and check it out. Like I said, it's like throwing rose petals out there. Elon Musk is out of his mind. All right. In a good way. In a good way. We need somebody thinking like that, completely outside of the box. I mean, think about it. Rick just said, what if we're already on Mars? See, that's the beauty of having it in private hands, right? Think about that. All right. Man, I love fresh coffee. Now, a little note before the show tonight. As you know, or may not, that this broadcast has made its way around social media. And it's made it around in a big way, and that's cool. And it says to me that people are alert, right? And they need this subject talked about. We can talk about abductions and channeling and visitations and things in the sky and night vision and documents and disclosure. We can talk about that every single day on the show, and we do, right? But the subject that we're going to talk about tonight just hasn't been breached. It hasn't been covered. And we anticipate a very large audience tonight, as it should be. This is a very touchy subject right now. And all of ufology, and I'm talking about the infiltration, this upheaval that's been going on. And all of ufology has been talking about it, which means that not only will we have big numbers tonight live, but that this show will be played back and listened to for years to come. And because of that, we need to be very conscious of this. This is a touchy subject. And the way that we deal with it today, the way that it's been dealt with in the past, is going to be a guidebook for the future and how things are dealt with and how people look at us in the future and look back to see how we dealt with this. It could be a playbook. So think about that. It's not only for the show tonight, but I really need to drive this home. It's for the future. It's for those that will follow us. Because over the last 3 to 4 weeks, our community has not only seen attacks, but it's seen false accusations on groups, on networks, and on conferences. And I was completely shocked. I've talked about it since it started to surface on the show, And although, and I really mean this, although I know what's going on because I can see the ebb and flow of things, but I don't have the time to go and read everything. Because, well, first off, I don't care. I'm smarter than that. But there's so much of it out there that it just got out of control. So I read what people send me in email. I'll read the headline of it. Okay, boom, whatever, I get it. But I saw what was going on. And some of it I was actually witness to, or you hear people making up false claims, and I'm there and I know what's going on. I'm just like, man, this is just crazy. Just absolutely nuts. And so it was shocking to me. And the meltdown, now this is where I'm going to get a little specific. The meltdown, the total mind meltdown of a few individuals who seem to either, I don't know, lack judgment, that's a first possibility, or maybe have completely lost control of their faculties, there's that. Maybe somebody's been activated in some crazy mind control program and they don't even know what's going on, right? There's that possibility. Could it be a concentrated effort from groups outside that want to see this community disrupted? There's that, which is a very big possibility, right? And for whatever reason, they have left large chunks of ufology just completely stunned. Some people in ufology today haven't gone through this before. They weren't around when the MJ-12 documents went nuts. They weren't around when the alien autopsy film came out. They weren't around for some of those things. And things that happened before that. They just weren't around. So they've seen this nice golden age of ufology where things have been really, really, really cool for, like the last 10 years. Lots of discovery, lots of things going on out there, ancient aliens and books and Graham Hancock and just wonderful, wonderful things that have been going on to, Göbekli Tepe, things that have been pushing our community forward at a very fast clip. And we've been able to discuss and wonder and just have a great time with this. But they haven't witnessed ever this crazy negativity that's going on. It's been a long time since ufology has seen these kind of flames. But to be honest, we're going to survive it. We're going to move on. We always do. But this is the other thing. It's names and finger pointing, and it's certainly from this side of the fence will never happen. It just won't. And you're going to ask me why. Well, first, it isn't what's most important. What is most important is that it has all happened at the same time in the last 3 weeks from groups and individuals who don't seem to be connected. And second, finger pointing only helps feed the artificial fire. And someone out there will say, and I'm quoting here, finger quotes, "See, I'm important. They talked about me." No, it ain't going to happen, my friends. That is juvenile, and that is stupid. This is a professional broadcast. We have nothing but the best and the brightest on this show. We always will, and we will never step down to that level. It's just stupid. And what I need to do, what these guests tonight on the show need to do, is help you. To help you just realize when you see this kind of negativity out there, what to do about it. You need to really realize what is the goal here. What is the goal? Everyone tonight has been invited because of their professionalism, because of their reputation, because of their background, their experience, and more importantly, the respect that they have achieved throughout our community. They have been there. They have weathered the storm. They have been through all of this, and you need to hear from them. You need to hear from all of them at this point because it's a very important time. You need answers. And remember, this show is about learning from the past. It's always been that. The show is about what is going on today. It's always been that. And most importantly, how do we move forward? Okay? And just remember that. The one thing about this show, the one thing about me, the one thing about our crew, and the Fadernauts, if you think about this, we have never, ever, ever once said anything publicly on the air that has been negative about anybody, a group, an individual. We just don't do that. We've never posted that. We've never put anything in an email. And I've said it many, many times. Hack my email account. Hack it. You're not going to find anything. Look at all of the posts. Look at all of the everything in social media. Look at every tweet. Look at everything ever. That's why this community has gathered around this show, because you know it's not going to be that. You don't come here for that. So enjoy yourself tonight. It's going to be a really great show. I'm really, really looking forward to it. Listen to what everybody has to say. All right? There you go. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. It's, you understand the format. Format is, I'm sorry, but I'm clicking stuff behind me, and I can't see because I don't have my glasses on. There you go. All right? The format is I will have 2 guests on every half hour for the next 2.5 hours. This is our UFO Community Roundtable. Has the UFO community been infiltrated? What to do about it and how to move forward. First up, Lee Speigel of the Huffington Post and author, show host, Micah Hanks. Get ready. Buckle up, kids. It's going to be a good one. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black. is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. We'll get the Twitter accounts from all of our guests tonight if you want to tweet them. This is our UFO Community Roundtable discussing, has the UFO community been infiltrated? Past, present, and future. We have 10 guests tonight. And first up out of the gate, Lee Speigel and Micah Hanks, and I'm going to, and for the both of you, the format is, obviously, we're going to have two guests on every half hour, and we're going to get through this 2.5 hours, 10 guests. But I will guide everybody through this and direct questions at everybody so we don't talk over each other, because it's always a mess when you have a bunch of guests on. So I will say first, good evening, Lee. How are you?
Good. How you doing tonight, Jimmy?
Pretty good, Lee. It is going to be one of those nights. Now, Lee Speigel representing tonight Huffington Post, one of the big media organizations in the country, and one of the leading journalists, writers, researchers over the last, Lee, I'm just going to say it publicly, 50 years.
Oh, my God. Another gray hair just popped in.
Right. And I paired you tonight with the young and ambitious and uber smart, the one and only from the Gralien Report, Micah Hanks. Micah, good evening.
Jimmy Church, you know, there's an old tradition down here in the sweet sunny South where I'm from, and that entails that on Wednesday nights you go to church, and here we are, right? And with Lee Speigel. Lee, brother, how you doing?
I'm good, Micah. Long time no hear and talk to you. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, and we got to do it more often, but hey, no better time than the present, so here we are.
Yeah. Hey, stop talking over me. That's not part of the program tonight.
Now, you know, and thank you for the slight brevity here. It's a touchy subject right now, and the last 3 weeks, this community, not only the UFO community, but the nation and the world, you know, it's been tipped upside down, going back certainly to the beginning of 2016. If we just stay with modern events. But that being said, the last 3 weeks has been pretty bleeping dramatic in the UFO community. And Lee, out of respect, because you're the old guy in the room right now, I'm going to throw it. I'm going to throw it to you first. With your experience in the past, and certainly you've seen this come and go many, many times. What do you think is occurring today? What is causing this infighting, finger pointing, and this fanning of the flames in the UFO community?
Well, you know, Jimmy, this is nothing new. When I first got interested in doing UFO research back in the mid-1970s, back then, you know, we had several well-known, somewhat respected UFO organizations. I mean, we had MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. We had APRO, the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization. We had NICAP,
right,
the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. We had QFOS, the Center for UFO Studies. And they were like, you know, they were all over the place, and they were all doing the same kind of thing, collecting UFO reports and doing their research. But the problem back then, which is still the problem now, is that nobody wants to talk to each other. Nobody wants to share information. It's like, I've got the best stuff and you can't have it. Or maybe you can for a price. It's been ridiculous to watch this evolve like this over the decades, and many of these people have great integrity, and it's just that I think the major problem here is that as far as ufology, there is just too much of this. There are too many daily pictures and videos posted to YouTube by individuals trying to get some attention. Now, the problem here is it's hard to tell the hoaxers or the charlatans, the UFO snake oil salespeople, from legitimate, credible witnesses. That's a big problem right now, because I think what's happening is there's so much backstabbing that the people who are having legitimate experiences, they're afraid of being ridiculed, and many of these people won't come forward. I think we're losing a lot of credible stories because people are just afraid of the ridicule factor that's always been there. It's always been underlying the whole UFO community.
One of the things that I find shocking with your comment there with our community, and I'm going to throw this over to Micah, because he's the young guy in the room. So, and he is a technically savvy guy. You should see his studio. It's off the hook. And he's a talented musician, and so he knows about audio and networks and everything else that's electronic. Micah, why is it today that the community and in general too as well, outside of the UFO community, will use a YouTube video as a source of credible information? Why? How did we get here where that is vetted journalism? That a YouTube video is something that somebody's going to cite and quote. How does that happen?
Well, I know my good friend Lee Spiegel will agree that is not a vetted source by any means, journalistically speaking. The other thing that we got to keep in mind, as human beings, we're visual beings. We have stereoscopic vision. We have evolved to be able to see, and that is our dominant sense, although there are a lot of others, which at times may take predominance over sight. But, primarily what we see is most attractive to us. Now, in the old days with print journalism, you could have photojournalism too. You had colorful photography that would accompany articles, but the thing that has changed is that we consume more media on the portable multifunction devices that we carry in our pockets, and so much of that now is video streaming or something that's been recorded, but there is this real-time aspect to it also with Facebook Live and all these kind of things. So the way that we're getting our media is changing, and this is fundamentally changing the way that we interpret information around us and the kinds of sources that we go to for that information. So, first and foremost, if we really want to break this down, the first bone I have to pick is he keeps saying I'm the young guy in the room. Come on, I thought I was like a 2,000-year-old Time Lord here. But, we won't split hairs. I will, however, quote Bruce Lee. And he and several people, I'm sure, over the decades have said this, if not centuries. Don't believe anything you hear and believe only half of what you see. These days, I don't know if you can even believe half of what you see because of, again, Jimmy, the way that technology, although it puts more media at our fingertips, it's also making it more and more easy to falsify and be misleading with the information that is made available. CGI, that's been a thing for years already, but we also have the spin that is put on things by the media where you don't have to alter or edit anything apart from just maybe how much of what you show and in what context you present it. And this polarization that we see in society is not something that is relegated to the UFO community. I think that this is, in broader terms, very much a part of the human condition.
Now, I'm going to go back to Lee, but I'm going to ask the same question of you, Micah, in just a second. Lee, in your writing for journalistic integrity, which is most important, especially with what you do, you're a professional journalist for the Huffington Post. Would you ever cite a social media post or a YouTube video as a source of information in one of your articles?
Well, to answer that, I will often show a YouTube video. I did something like that just a few weeks ago when I exposed the Russian news organization called Pravda that falsified an entire story about how they claimed NASA had photographed 3 UFOs going across the sun, and they showed a wonderful picture, an illustration of these UFOs, and in order to help break it all down, I showed in my story another example of a YouTube video from a well-known site that is often criticized for making things up. And they were putting out this image that showed the sun, and maybe you've all seen it, maybe your audience has too, that showed some kind of a circular thing, dark circular thing on the outside of the sun, seemingly taking energy from the sun and then zipping away at a fast speed. And the site claiming, well, this is obvious, this is an extraterrestrial presence on the sun and stealing energy from us. I will cite these kinds of videos, but I will never say that I think this is the real deal, because I don't know. Listen, there are 10-year-old kids out there who can sit in front of a computer and with simple, basic Photoshop skills, they can create like a 5-minute video that will just knock your socks off, and you'll go, wow, that's it. That's the smoking gun. We don't have to do anything more. Now we can just study Bigfoot.
Right, and Micah, right back at you. You know, one of the things about you that I've always enjoyed over the years is you are very pragmatic, and I've always called you black and white, but but it is a term of endearment. But for you, you know, going on a show like this or your own show, would you ever cite something like that? You know, some social media post or a YouTube video, and quote that as being your source of information?
And here
if I believed it, if I actually thought
that that was at Micah.
I'd say it's okay. It's quite right. But I was just going to say, let me add this really quickly. This entire time I thought what Jimmy liked about me was my eyebrows, like the entire rest of the internet. Yeah. And listen, coming back to your question, though, watch my eyebrows are going to go viral. Okay. Right. There's going to be a Twitter storm here after I said that. But yes, I would actually use a YouTube video or something that was posted to Facebook. But again, you have to, like, kind of coming back to what Lee's talking about there. If I'm writing an article about something, yes, vetting sources, you know, critically thinking, being skeptical, these are all very necessary. But I also think it's okay to comment on something without endorsing it if you are reporting on it. This is really fundamentally what journalism is it's intended to be about. These days, however, and I'll briefly cite something that happened down the road here. There was a professor at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, and he had commented on what he called something to the effect of the Bigfoot effect. He said, you know, back in the 1970s and 80s, the National Enquirer or whatever news source, they could comment on Bigfoot, and they could report that a guy, Joe Bob, down the road here at Clayton, claims that he saw a strange creature walking across the road in the middle of the night. Now, you may not believe Joe Bob's story, but we reported, and it was true, that he claimed he saw something like that. These days, it seems that distinction does not exist. If you report on an alleged sighting of UFOs or a strange hairy man-beast or something like that, you are tagged as part of the problem for reporting on that. That distinction, it does seem to have changed over the years. And with great respect, of course, for sites like Snopes that are trying to debunk what they perceive as being unlikely or incredible stories, I think that there has become this kind of a race to try and point the finger and point at what is fake news or what is, again, just woo-woo, whatever you want to call it. And there isn't a lot of discerning thought put to the idea that, hey, there may be more to reality than we think we know, as well as the fact that, hey, it's also okay to report on things. That doesn't necessarily mean you endorse what you're reporting. So within that context, I think it is okay, but it's all in how you report on what you are linking to. If there's a video or something that's proven or appeared online, be sure and say, hey, we don't know what this is, and responsibly we can still report on that without endorsing that and we believe UFOs have landed in this video. I hope that makes sense. It does. And we just need to practice that. We need to look at everything and listen to stuff with squinted eyes. You know, that's what we have to do. Now, the last 3 weeks, we have seen in ufology some of the craziest stuff that has been not only posted and reported on, and salacious accusations and just insanity. And it has come from what I see, from sources that aren't even connected with each other.
Now, and it's all happened at the same time. Lee, what do you think is going on here? Do you think it's some kind of mind control activation program where these people aren't even aware? Is it that? Is it ego? Is it people that are just trying to get noticed? Is it jealousy? What's going on here? Why is it all happening at the same time?
Well, I think that there's way too much teasing of the public with this alleged alien evidence, and there's never a solid payoff following that tease. And I think that too many people are getting on the bandwagon looking for their 30 seconds of fame because they know that the public is hungry for this kind of accurate information and reporting. The public wants to know, are we alone or are we not alone? Are we being visited? And there are shysters out there who are making some money, in some cases a lot of money, by getting people to pay for things, products and services that promote a teasing effect. And I also think the media is to blame for a lot of this because, I mean, after all these decades of reporting UFO stories to the public, it's too often still snickered at, and that's what you just said, Jimmy. In general, the media I don't think that the media really knows or fully understands how to present UFO stories in any other place besides after the weather forecast and the sports report on the 11 o'clock news. I've always felt that the UFO issue is very complex, and it would just be really helpful if more people, like, for example, I won't name names, but the SETI Institute, for example, made up of many scientists, well-credentialed scientists, and they're out there looking for alien signals from outer space. But they don't want to talk about UFOs. And when they do talk about it, it's always there's just no evidence. Well, there are lots of different kinds of evidence that make up something that's credible, but to just dismiss it without even considering the fact that maybe people are reporting something that truly is remarkable and should be studied by someone, I think it's sending a bad message when scientists say, no, there's nothing going on about UFOs. Let's just put it all aside. They're not landing and having some kind of interactions with people. To just say things like that outright, I think it's a bad idea. And I'm also not saying that all of these stories are correct. I think the whole UFO issue is so, like I said, it's more complex. We need more scientists to take a more open-minded look at it. And by the way, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I've been called that, but I do happen to think that governments of the world know more about this UFO thing than they've told, and that they most likely probably feel that it's easier not to admit to the public certain aspects of UFOs that are really complex. And I only have that opinion from the many interviews that I've done, and that you guys have probably done the same kind of interviews. And you talk to people who are high up in different countries, and they say these heads of states or experts or scientists or military people who have chased these things and have said, look, there's something operating in our skies. We're not saying it's alien, but we are saying that there's something there. And whatever it is, we should kind of learn more about this, whatever it turns out to be. And that's pretty much my stance on it now. I never, these days, I never say that I think it's aliens or extra-dimensionals. All I say is there is something going on, and it's not people just hallucinating or making this stuff up.
But why break up, Lee? Why break up and divide and conquer the UFO community? What is gained from that? What's the goal?
I think if I'm right that governments of the world know more than they're talking about, and I think this is safe to assume, they wouldn't want the public to know everything, and so it wouldn't surprise me that there are programs out there, disinformation programs. Nick Pope told me this story years ago. He said when he was still working in the UFO office at the at the Ministry of Defense in the UK. He was told specifically to talk down UFO reports as they came in, and he said, we did this thing called spin and dirty tricks to the public. And I said, what is that? He said, well, that meant that when a UFO report came in, I had to go and I had to make sure that the public felt that it was just something, it was a plane, it was the planet Venus. We deliberately put out disinformation because we didn't know really what was going on in the skies that was operating clearly free at will, and we couldn't stop it. So I think that's a big part of this, Jimmy, is that the governments may just simply not know everything, and they don't want to give the impression that they don't know everything to the public.
Interesting. Micah, why divide and conquer the UFO community? Even if it's an individual that is attempting to spread disinformation and get everybody yelling and fighting amongst each other, why do that?
I think it's fundamental, to humans that ego typically drives us. I mean, some of us can learn over time to temper that, but I think everyone wants to feel that they are important or that they are loved, or that they are in some way meaningful in either their personal sphere, their little group of friends, or in a broader community like this one or any other kind of a community. I think it's just fundamentally human, unless you're, again, one of those rare exceptions or perhaps someone who's psychopathic. These are the ways that you're going to try to relate to people. You want to be able to feel important, and you want to feel meaningful to somebody, loved or whatever else. In the UFO community, unfortunately, that desire, I think, to feel like you are in the know, or that you are on the cusp of knowledge, or that you are, the most dedicated and devoted researcher, or the most knowledgeable researcher, or that you've put in the years and that you have learned the most over time. All these kind of things, I think, manifest similarly, and I think that there are many people, with due respect to my colleagues, many of whom I'm very good friends with, but I mean, I see a lot of us doing that, and perhaps I'm guilty of it too. In fact, I'm sure I am, that at times there is a bit of this rat race and this desire to want to be on top of things, to have that kind of knowledge. I know something that you don't know. The truth is, again, coming back, to my good pal Lee here is talking about, over time I've learned, like he says, not to try and make definitive statements about this phenomena, which frustrates people, including skeptics, because they say, well, Hanks doesn't seem to know what he believes. It's not about not knowing what you believe. It's about abstaining from judgment in the absence of truly reliable data. That is a problem that we have. I had an essay that I contributed to recently for a anthology called UFOs Reframing the Debate. And there had been a very polite skeptic, and I appreciate him for his candor, and he had written a review of several of the essays, including my own. And although he and I kind of disagreed on what I consider an evangelical attitude about the supremacy of science, I can feel that way, and I can believe that science is the most important thing, too. But one thing he said I really agree with Hanks about is that there are members of the skeptical community who act more as debunkers than really look at the evidence. And he said of me that, Mike is right about that. That does need to change, and I think it does, because even while we've got with the UFO community people who think that they know everything, on the other side, too, we've got people in the skeptical community who, without actually having reviewed what evidence we do have, they also have made up their minds and think they know everything, and they think that everything is nothing and that there's nothing to UFOs, end of the debate. If we could find some common ground and put the egos aside and really admit how little we do know, and I think speak in more general terms that, hey, we can all agree that there is a phenomena. In that instance, in that kind of circumstance, general is good because it will allow us to abstain from judgment and thereby not allow the biases and such to flood in and the preconceived notions. And we may be able to actually move forward and study whatever this phenomena turns out to be.
Yeah, it's all very good points.
Let me just add one quick thing there. I agree with what Micah just said. In every lecture that nuclear physicist Stan Friedman gives, and we all know who Stan Friedman is, he always says that the debunkers and the hardcore skeptics have a mantra. It's a very special mantra, and here's their mantra. Don't bother me with the evidence. My mind is already made up.
Right. 100%. Yeah, their answer is always no. Right? That's it. They just say, go, no.
In defense of certain skeptics, and I'll maybe call myself a skeptic here in that sense, that's not always what they say. It's just that I think that the majority of those who fall into the social group or the social movement that identifies as modern skepticism tend to act that way, and I think that's because it's expected of them. There are a few bright shining lights out there too who are willing to, like I've said, abstain from judgment on things in the absence of reliable evidence, which may conclusively tell us, for or against or definitively what we may be dealing with. Look, again, my personal opinion is there is a phenomena. I think that there's plenty of evidence that there is a phenomena, but I think that the problem is too many people have made up their minds about what that is or is not yet. We really don't know, and if we did, I don't think we'd be having this kind of discussion.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Hey, Lee, we've got 2 minutes, so just a nice, quick answer to a very direct question. Has the UFO community today been infiltrated?
Do you mean like by a government source or an ET source?
No, by disinfo.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, and in fact, when I was talking about Nick Pope before, and he said to me, one of the things that he was told to do was to go specifically to UFO conferences and to spread disinformation. This was part of his agenda. And so that was years ago. So I can totally see how UFO conference organizers wouldn't know if disinformation is being spread. It's a very, very sublime thing. People can go and just start talking and just start spreading stories, and then it just starts to pick up some steam, and pretty much everybody's talking. Sure, I think that there is infiltration. Why not?
There you go. Micah, I'll let you have the parting comment. You've got 60 seconds. Has the UFO community been infiltrated today?
Well, there might be historical precedent for that. Again, I try to be careful about leaping to the idea that, they're among us, they're listening. But what I can tell you is if we look at things like, for instance, Greg Bishop's fabulous book, Project Beta, there's definitely historical precedent for aspects of the community being controlled from outside. And yes, this has involved U.S. intelligence agencies. Now, again, we don't have to put on a tinfoil hat and say, what, really? Conspiracy time. No, I think, again, we have to look at what there is evidence for, and there is historical precedent for that. Whether it's happening right now, I couldn't tell you, but we know it has happened. I think it's the kind of thing to keep an eye out for.
I want to thank the both of you for kicking off this very important show tonight. Keep doing what you're doing. Lee Speigel from the Huffington Post, and from the Grayling Report, the one and only Micah Hanks. Thank you two gentlemen, and we'll speak soon. This is Fade to Black. This is our UFO Community Roundtable. Coming up next, Race Hobbs and John Burroughs. Like I said, buckle up, kiddies. It's going to be a good one. I'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Race Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Tonight is our UFO Community Roundtable. We just had Lee Spiegel and Micah Hanks. Next up, Race Hobbs and John Burroughs. A little bit later on, Mike Bara and John D'Souza are going to be here. Steve Murillo, Tom Danheiser from Coast to Coast AM. Jan Harzan and Peter Davenport are going to be here. And like I said, next up is Race Hobbs, the general manager of KGRA, The Planet, and John Burroughs. And John, I'm going to say hello to you first because I was calling you Witness to Rendlesham. It kind of sounds kind of cool. Good evening, John. How are you?
Good, Jimmy. How are you doing tonight?
It's one of those nights, and I want to thank you for participating and jumping in on this. And Racy Hobbs, Race, how are you tonight, sir?
Doing good, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, let's start off here because we've only got about 25 minutes with the two of you. Crazy 3 weeks in ufology and this community. Things have been completely tipped upside down. Race, I'm going to give you the platform first. You've been involved with not only MUFON, but the community in general, conferences. You've been running a network. You've been part of it. Have you ever seen anything this crazy before?
Well, first of all, I want to say that it is absolutely difficult on the highest level to follow the astounding Lee Spiegel and the intrepid Micah Hanks. Those two guys, two of my favorite people in ufology, and I agree with everything they just said. But to get to your question, and I love you both guys, once I got active into research into UFOs, the first thing I remembered that had the community splintered was the MJ-12 discovery by Moore and Chandray.
Right.
And it was truly very, very controversial at the time. And even still to this day. And, in fact, there have been new documents just, released to the public, in that same MJ-12 vein that have reignited it. The second was probably the John Lear hypothesis. And that sort of led to me, having a piqued interest in the Christmas 1980 Bentwaters UFO case, upon which John Burroughs here was at the right in the crosshairs in the center of. It's still, to this day, after it broke, in the early mid 80s, it's still one of the most divisive cases in the social sphere of ufology. A lot of folks, Jimmy, they think the UFO field is really concerned with aliens and flying saucers, but they couldn't be more wrong. To be honest, when you talk about cattle mutilations and abductions and stealing of human fetuses and moon and Mars explorations, NASA and, the International Space Station, remote viewing, and even 9/11 are all, research subjects surrounding the UFO field. And to be honest, it just, it seems to have factions on both sides that are very opinionated. Now, my observations really have convinced me that the divisive nature being expressed in the UFO community today is just a small percentage of an effect. Or some may say, it's a small percentage in the UFO community based on comparison to more of a national stage or a worldwide stage in the social media degradation effect. I kind of call it like the slag effect, because it's like a massive melting pot of opinions expressed on a worldwide platform. And to be honest, Jimmy, when you consider the source of a lot of this, this negativity that I call the detractor side of the social sphere, it's really driven by on a mainstream level by the media. And, and when you consider the sources of this negative information, most of it is personally driven, in my opinion. And that's based off of my, sort of behind the scenes, insider kind of aspect and position, producing thousands of hours of radio with every name you can imagine and every player you can imagine at every level you can imagine in ufology. But this is just a bleed over from a much more worldwide phenomenon going on in, in the social sphere, in the news, and driven by mainstream media. And, what it's going to take to resolve it is a whole lot of maturity in the populations of the world in a real hurry.
Why, Race? And you've been seeing this going on for a long time, and you and I have had a lot of lengthy conversations on the subject. Why do certain individuals do these personal attacks and accusations and outright lies? And then you have today, it seems that we have multiple individuals that have come unhinged that aren't connected to each other in any way, attacking different people and organizations all at the same time. How do you explain that?
Well, there's a lot of pissed off people out there, is really kind of the only way I can put it. A lot of it really comes from, in my opinion, what I see. And again, my head is down most of the time doing the work, so I'm not really involved in it a lot. But just like you mentioned earlier, it just seems like all of this has befallen the UFO community as of late. These groups, these factions that have come together to, they claim to be trying to unite ufology and to build ufology up and bring it together. And they seem to be the ones that are spewing the most divisive rhetoric and pushing a negative agenda stronger. And I'm not so sure, how effective it is, but it has us talking about it here tonight.
John, certainly with you, and welcome to the show, John. It's always good to hear your voice, as you know, but you have been at this now. We were talking about this 37 years, right? 37 years. And over that time, you have seen personal attacks on you and other individuals in your circle come and go. How have you fought that? And what have you done personally about it?
Well, to me, I've just stuck with what happened to us and tried to take a closer look at the evidence behind the case, what we could have experienced, what we could have been exposed to, and move forward in that aspect, and not try to make anything sensational. And I think what the first two guests and what Race and what your question is that there's too much sensationalism in this. There's too much entertainment. There's not enough hardcore data. And what I mean by hardcore data, there's plenty of data out there, but there's not enough hardcore data to actually zero in on what's going on. So it's real easy for this to take place. And ultimately, I feel if you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, they're not worried about the fringes, and I call the fringes the believers, the people that have done more research or know something's going on, or the skeptics. They're going to try to control the middle group of people. And what happens is too many people get out there and are too sensational or make this too much of an entertainment or put stuff out there that just is not believable or can't be confirmed. And what it leads to is simply the fact that this is the mess we're in. And until we get some hardcore evidence, what I mean by that is whether there's something definitive, whether it's an announcement from scientists, from the government, or whatever else, this is just the way things are going to continue.
And how have you dealt with it, though? Because certainly you've had people come at you and for great lengths of time, nearly a daily basis. You know, do you just ignore it? And how do you deal with it?
Well, I do my best to ignore it. A lot of it I just laugh at, but I mean, I try to ignore it because I don't consider myself a mainstream researcher, somebody out there on the circuit, you know, and so my basic goal is to do as much as I can with our case, which is still, there's a lot to be done. But ultimately, you just have to stick to what you know is right, and you have to be honest with what you have. And one of the other things that was brought up earlier is everybody's trying to hold back evidence and be the one to break the case. And I'm sorry, but there's not going to be any one person break this case until the government, somebody, either science or the government, comes out with some kind of announcement, or we get some kind of event that happens that's filmed and they just no longer can hide it.
Yeah, Race and I were talking about that just, what was that, today or yesterday, Race? That exact subject. Yeah. When I hear, and I'm going to throw this out to both of you because it seems like we're talking about evidence right now. So much today, I see this response coming back. We need evidence. We need evidence. We need evidence. And when I see that, my response is, what you are saying then, that everybody that has ever seen anything in the sky, every contact, every strange thing in somebody's bedroom, whatever it may be that was in a book, in a documentary, that you are demanding from everybody evidence. And so you're discounting or calling everybody else that's had experience, including me, a liar. And there are millions of people out there that resonate and connect with not only Rendlesham, but things in the sky or little gray beings in their front yard. They have seen these things and they resonate with that, and you can't call millions of people liars. So what is the evidence that these negative people out there want out of all of these other hundreds of thousands of individuals?
John, you want me to take that first?
Yeah, go ahead, Race.
Well, to be quite honest with you, Jimmy, I don't know that's the answer. That's gonna hush these, what I call detractors, up, because there is evidence out there. Now, this takes me back to something that like Lee Spiegel said about nobody shares anything. And, then it brings you to the issue of who do you trust, Jimmy, right? Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people out there with agendas. Like I just mentioned, some are personal, some are for personal popularity. And believe me, I've found those and come across those. Some are actually disinformation agents, and we all know they're there, just like Lee mentioned in his segment. But most are really, in my opinion, armchair researchers just blowing a lot of stinky gas. So I keep my trusted colleagues and people close to me, and we do share. And John Burroughs is one of those. Jimmy, you're one of those. Lee Spiegel and Micah Hanks are those. Chase Kletzky is one of my biggest and most trusted people in all of this work we're doing. And and I kind of call it a clique. And I've been criticized for calling it a clique, but I'm proud to call it a clique because Most of the people who are doing the real work and who are closer to the real answers are not in the social sphere. They're not in the public. To quite honestly, to just avoid exactly what we're talking about here. But I expressed this opinion for the first time publicly tonight. I'm convinced that we're in what I'm calling the shift. We're in a completely new paradigm here that ufology has never seen before. And by that I mean, in the old days, the old cough button, in the old days, you know, you had to come with scientific empirical evidence, or just keep your mouth shut, because the kook factor was so well ingrained in society that people avoided the UFO subject like the plague. So our founders and forefathers, the Donald Keyholes and the Bill Pitts and Dewey Fournays and all
James
of those
McDonald.
guys back in the day that were doing the work, the groundwork and the field work and gathering documents. Even, Stanton Friedman, we mentioned in the earlier segment, these guys had to come with it, or you were ridiculed and you were squashed out right away. I mean, today, people go on the biggest, radio shows across the country and have literally done nothing in ufology. And somehow they're on the main stage of these conferences, main stage of the biggest conferences in the world, and literally have done nothing, not a thing, to deserve to be where they are. And the entertainment factor has taken over the decision-making of a lot of the stuff that goes on in the public eye. And this comes back to what I just called the shift. The older generations needed empirical proof. The millennials and the younger generations today don't. They're born with the belief that extraterrestrials are real, that life exists in the universe in abundance, and they are most likely here or have been here, and they don't need convincing. And I think, Jimmy, that we're all caught up in this flux, in this change where the older and more empirical evidence-based generations are in conflict with the younger generations, more the transformational and the consciousness, the folks who already believe it and that already express themselves in a way with a complete lack of empirical evidence to prove what they say and what they believe. And there is the war. There's the people who have no proof whatsoever, empirical proof or scientific proof of what they're presenting, and then there are those who demand it and have some of it, and they're at odds. They're banging heads, and they're banging them hard. And I think that probably the confirmation over disclosure is going to win the day. And I completely have come around to that way of thinking because of my co-guest here, John Burroughs. He has influenced me greatly in the realm of the idea that confirmation is coming before a government will disclose it. I really believe that that's going to be the case. And so for those of you in the transformational and the spiritual and the consciousness aspect of this, stay your course and do your thing. Don't let anybody influence you or make you feel lesser than or put you in a box or in a corner. And to those of you who demand empirical and scientific evidence, don't let up either, but do your thing where you are and in the circles you do it in. And everybody get off of each other's backs, because Race Hobbs is making a personal change. Because listen, I'm going to tell you something this real quick. I know, John, come in. I'm making a change because I've been guilty of like angry political posting over the last year and a half.
Yes, you have.
I've made some comments, Jimmy, that I'm not proud of it, even some that I regret.
Yep.
But these days, brother, people are dying over this mess. And I, for one, am getting out of it. I'm passionate. I'm a patriot. Presidents come and go that I don't like, but I get behind them because they're my commander-in-chief.
Right.
And there's been several of them in my lifetime. but, it really contributes to the overall hate level between those of us with different political opinions, socially, and so on. So, again, I'm Race Hobbs and making a change. I'll go back to something that my great-grandfather told me, and all of our elders have told all of us, I'm sure. If you can't say anything nice, don't say it.
That's exactly that right there, Race. And when I talk about throwing rose petals on the floor of life, right, that's part of it. And this is the thing, and John, I'm going to pass this over to you. This is what's really important here. If our community suddenly, and it doesn't matter what part of the community you are at, you could be a speaker at the top, you could be a whistleblower, you could be a researcher, you could be an author, or you could just be somebody that listens to this program, and calls into this program. If suddenly that shift happened where I was demanding from guests, from listeners, from callers into this show, before you call in and tell me that you had sex, with 3 aliens on a spaceship, orbiting Jupiter, right? You better bring me evidence before you call in and tell us about that on the show. And if I did that, I got no callers. If I did that, I have no guests. If I did that, I have no audience. This is a platform for all of us, no matter what you've got to say, that you can say it. And if you can't say it here, you can't say it anywhere. And we need to have that comfort level to know that no matter what it is that you want to share, you can do it here. And I'm not going to clamp you down. And for people out there to say negative things about John Burroughs or somebody else or you, Ray, and to clamp down, suddenly we are part of the problem. And now I am censoring. And that is wrong. If you can't talk here, you can't talk anywhere. And
you're here.
And that is it. I will not hear it from anybody. Just think about that. I've had some really, really cool, intimate conversations with the audience members on this show. Why? Because they know that they can call up and listen, and I'll listen. And no matter what it is, let's hear about it, because somebody else out there is going to go, dude, I had that same experience. Great. And that's what this is about. And I'm going to throw this over to John. John, if you had felt that you were going to be pressured or laughed at or ridiculed from the word go, would you have just stayed silent these last 37 years?
I was forced into having to talk about it when the documents started getting released, but it's hard to say. I don't know. What I can say is that if it comes down to this, if you're honest with what if you present what you have, and you let people have the right to make a decision one way or another, and you try to stay within those parameters, you're probably going to be okay. But it's when you try to make it more sensational than it is, or go harder at things, that's when you start to get into trouble. And all I'm going to say is, to me, overall, I don't know what it was in the early days. I wasn't involved with it, but I can tell you today, this is more of an entertainment type of thing, ufology is, and that at the end of the day, someone's going to have to step up and take charge of it. And it'll probably happen when the government releases something or science releases something. But there's one person out there that's slowly doing this, and he always draws heat, but you can't discount Robert Bigelow.
Right,
and he slowly but surely, with a lot of money, has worked along. He was in MUFON and all that stuff, but he was the one that got on 60 Minutes, and he flat out said, we're not alone. And that's the man, I think, that at the end of the day is going to be, if it's not coming from our government directly or from some science organization, he's going to be the one that's going to drive this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were talking historically. I'm going to make this really quick because we're getting close to wrapping this up. A lot of our listeners today, they weren't around for like the alien autopsy video. Race, you almost touched upon that. I thought you were going to go there. Or the MJ-12 documents and how vicious that was on the UFO community. And today we have a whole race. You hit this right on the head. We have a whole new generation of our community here that absolutely, empirically, without question, believes that we are not alone. Right? And that's where we are at today. And we have to listen to everybody. And today, John sent me those the new MJ-12 documents. Thank you, John. That's what I woke up to this morning.
Thank you, John.
I'm like, okay, here we go again. And I want them to be real. I really, really do. But I don't know if even that, for the skeptics out there, if that is enough to push this over the edge. I really, really want something to happen, but I don't need it because I've seen what I've seen in the skies. I've had my experiences. John, you've had your experience in Rendlesham, and I think that you can safely say there's something strange going on here. Race, you have seen stuff in the skies. Is anybody out there that is going to be negative? Is anybody going to change either of your minds? Race, I'll give that first. You can just give me yes or no.
No.
John, is anybody ever going to change your mind about what happened in Rendlesham with negativity?
No.
And that's my point. Negativity doesn't do any good. The people that have had their experience or believe what they want to believe are going to continue down that path. Negativity and divide and conquer isn't going to change anybody's minds about anything. I want to thank the both of you for coming on tonight. John, and I'm going to say this on behalf of Race, my man, you have done this now for 37 years. There's no ending in sight. Please don't ever change. And we need you, John, and I want to say thank you.
All right, thanks, Jimmy.
Race, parting comment. You've got 60 seconds.
When presidential candidates are talking about UFOs in a positive way, I think that is a huge signal that the world has completely changed in regard to UFOs. And as far as I'm concerned, now, Jimmy, you and I are both what is called the entertainment industry. We're in radio. We're in talk radio. This is entertainment. But we're going to present platforms for people to be able to come on, express their ideas, their experiences, their opinions, and they're not going to be judged doing it. We're going to keep taking the high road, and we're going to keep delivering this information to the public who wants it. And to those who don't, you can go anywhere you want to go and get whatever you want to get, wherever you want to go get it. But at the end of the day, when extraterrestrial truth is made the truth worldwide, we're all going to know it.
And it won't be what we expect either. I can tell you that.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Race. John Burroughs, you're the best. You guys have a great, safe rest of your evening. This is Fade to Black. It is our UFO Community Roundtable. We are discussing, has the UFO community been infiltrated? This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Up next, author Mike Bara and John D'Souza. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
So I get out of the shower this morning. I'm looking in the mirror, and not to brag, but my beach body is coming back. I'm not fearing shorts and bathing suits this summer. And thanks to naturesyouth.com, I'm here to help you too. The anti-aging experts, Nature's Youth RSF, they've developed an all-natural amino acid supplement that supports my body to naturally increase HGH levels without synthetic hormones. You see, HGH, or human growth hormone, it's produced by the pituitary gland, and it's essential for growth and regeneration of my cells and tissues. Elevated HGH levels can contribute to not only increasing my energy, improving my libido, and reducing my body fat, but overall improving my exercise capacity. Now, just by watching what I eat, doing a little exercise, and taking my daily dose of Nature's Youth RSF, I'm in a swimsuit, and I'm happy to be there. My beach body is back. I want you to get yours. Join me today and look better and less with help from Nature's Youth. It's easy. Go to naturesyouth.com. That's naturesyouth.com. And bring on the sunshine.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. This is our UFO Community Roundtable on Has Ufology Been Infiltrated? The last 3 weeks has seen just flames from all directions on individuals and groups and networks and authors, and it's just been absolutely crazy out there. And I have gathered the very best, brightest, most professional, respected members of our community on tonight to discuss this very important issue. Next up, I want to welcome to the program the one and only Mike Bara and John D'Souza. Mike Bara, of course, author, researcher, television personality, and John D'Souza spent 20 years in the FBI. I want to welcome the both of you to the program, and to keep things in order, I'm going to say good evening to John first. John, good evening. How are you?
Great, Jimmy. Great. Very happy to be here, and sounds like a pretty lively discussion here tonight.
Yeah, and it's going to get livelier because now we have on the one and only Mike Bara. Mike, good evening, man. How are you?
I'm great. I thought I was supposed to tone it down tonight, though. What's the deal? No?
You know, I've got to always rope you in no matter what. Mike, the good news, we're not talking about 9/11 tonight. So
good.
Yeah,
good,
there
good.
you go. Okay. Welcome to the program, the both of you. Now, I want to start here with an overall general question. And I'm going to throw this to John D'Souza first. John, has the UFO community been infiltrated? It seems like everything has happened quite rapidly over the last 3 weeks from different groups, different individuals, pointed at different groups and different individuals, but it's all happened at the same time. In your opinion, have we been infiltrated?
Well, yes, I think it's always been that way, though. I don't think this is something new. I think the UFO community and paranormal community in general has always been infiltrated, and it's always been that way throughout history as well. And that's for a very good reason. It's because global powers in charge, what I call EPIC, the elite powers in control, have it as one of their high priorities to always defeat, deter, and destroy paranormal and ufology also. It's a very big agenda item for them, and it's something they'll always be working on.
Mike, you've been at this for a long time, and you've seen things come and go. Has the UFO community been infiltrated?
Yeah, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Yeah, you know, I agree with John. I think it's probably always been infiltrated. There's always been people in the game that were, you know, not real, that were definitely there to distract people from the reality of what's going on and the people that are doing good work. And they're sort of, you know, it's kind of like they're just trying to suck up the air in the room so that other people don't really get a chance to do a more, I guess I would say, serious research. So there's always been these people out there. I can name you a few that I'm suspicious of, but I'm not going to. But I mean, there's this presence has always been here, and there's also people that are just in it to get attention and make a buck, and they're not really serious about going after the truth. So you can't mix up one with the other. You never know who's really on the payroll and who's not. I've offered on many occasions to be put on the payroll, and I never have. So nobody will give me any money. So I'm just kidding. But it's like, hey, you have to be careful, because there's always been this sort of element out there of phoniness to some people. But the truth is also, Jimmy, that you've got a lot of this conflict that goes on is simple jealousy.
Do you think, now this is where I'm going to go a little bit extreme, but I think there's a very strong possibility when I look at some of the individuals and groups that have literally completely come unhinged and have lost control of their faculties, with accusations and lies and just outright just bloody stuff. Do you think that there's the possibility of some remote mind control going on and somebody's been activated and they don't even know it? Mike, you first.
So, somebody's been activated and they don't even know it. I guess that's a possibility. Although, again, Jimmy, I tend to attribute more of this rivalry and stuff that goes on to simply people fighting over their piece of the pie, fighting over attention, trying to get people, to focus on their research rather than somebody else's. I mean, you look at somebody like Bob Lazar, and he was universally attacked by a lot of the established names in the UFO community, and people have said a lot of things about him. And look, I'll just tell you from my experience as an engineer, when I hear him talk, I guarantee you he is either an engineer or a scientist, a physicist. This is the guy who has a way of speaking, who has a way of communicating that is definitely educated, experienced. He knows what he's talking about. So as an example of, using him as an example, I would say that the attacks on him were really unjustified. And, yet on the other hand, it's like there's no question. As I've done research on books that I've written, there's no question that the government from time to time puts stuff out there to see what people will believe and what they won't believe. Actually, I've been doing research for a book I wrote a couple years ago, Ancient Aliens and Secret Societies. I discovered that the War of the Worlds broadcast, the radio broadcast in 1938, I think it was, by Orson Welles, that was all financed by a group coming out of Princeton University that got government money to put that show on the air. And so, you find out that they kind of wanted to see, well, where's everybody's state of mind, and what's going to happen if there's really an invasion from Mars, or how will people react? So there is this deeper, darker undertone to things. But again, I tend to assign most of this to simply people, that were once a big deal in the community, not now as big a deal, and kind of not being happy about that.
John, what do you think about that idea that possibly there could be some, mind control and some activation going on here that has caused all of this to happen at the same time?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of moving parts involved with what's going on right now, and that mind control is one of the tools in the toolkit of the globalists that are often behind these types of infiltration movements. And also the moving parts that Mike Bara just referred to also play a large part in this kind of a thing. But one thing I wanted to add to this is that one of your previous speakers there scared me about this Robert Bigelow talk. Mm-hmm. And I want to say right away that the answer to this kind of situation in ufology or in the paranormal is not a star chamber or a panel that's going to be self-appointedly judging who's legitimate and who's an infiltrator. That's never the answer. I've worked with star chambers before, notably during the 80s when we started the FISA system, which was done, the FISA system in the United States against international terrorists, which was done with secret judges until that whole system was blown wide open by the New York Times. and rightfully so. So it's just too much. It's too much power to have some kind of appointed star chamber or some group of individuals to decide who's right and who's not legitimate. What the answer to approaching this kind of problem is with standards. Standards is the right, and protocols that can be used to assess individuals and assess their material. And I can tell you right away a standard that people already use. Everyone uses this instinctively, but sometimes it helps to hear it articulated. Everybody uses there's a two-pronged standard that's used to judge, to opine, to figure out whether people are legitimate. And one is the personality assessment of the person themselves, their integrity, reliability, as a witness, as someone speaking on this material. And then there's the judgment of the evidentiary value of the material they're bringing forth. And I can tell, and here's the secret about those two standards, which everybody uses. The secret about those two standards is that if you pass one of those standards, you only have to pass one, and people will, and your material will be very well received, and it will be given the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to pass both. And I can tell you, for an example, if Mike Bara brings forth a ghost story, and with no evidence, I'm still going to listen to it because of the weight and the gravitas of his authority, of his personality, of who he is, and the record that he has, the education that he has in this area, and everything. So even if he comes with a ghost story with no corroboration and no other witnesses, that evidence, it's going to be looked at. It's going to be taken as very credible, because he passes that first test, that personality assessment. And of course, that's going to be good enough. Or sometimes people, if their material if the witness themselves is someone unknown, is somebody that you don't know what kind of reliability they have, if their material is fantastic in terms of being rock solid, credible, reliable material, then that's going to be good enough for people to really give it a good looking at. And that's the way it should be. It's fine to have. The problem now is that we have a lot of people who don't pass either test. In ufology and in the paranormal in general, the people who don't pass either test, and yet somehow they're inorganically being thrust forward. And so that's what raises so many questions, because their personal reliability is not there. Their integrity is not there. What they were saying just 2 years ago doesn't jibe with what they're saying now. Some of them don't even know what's in their own books that they supposedly wrote. And yet they're out here pressing forward material that is also ludicrous and doesn't have any weight to it at all. So they fail, I should say. They fail on both prongs of that natural assessment that we use in this area. And so it just becomes bewildering when individuals like that still somehow are pushed forward without any real organic sort of support. It just raises tremendous questions about infiltration.
Well, certainly, and well put. I want to throw this over to Mike, kind of staying on that same vein. When you get attacked over and over again, and your accusers, of which Mike has had many over the years, don't come with bullets in their gun. You know, they're just making stuff up left and right, and you have to combat that every single day, where you're just seeing stuff that is just out and out, made up. How do you deal with that, Mike? You're the right guy to ask this question.
Well, I mean, I used to respond to all of it, and it really was the idea is what they really want to do is they want to suck up all your time and energy, so you don't have any time and energy to do anything new, and keep bringing people the truth. And the reason that researchers are gone after is not because they don't have any game or they don't have any information that they're bringing. It's because they do have it. So in a way, it's really flattering. What's going on is that, whether it's me or somebody else in the community is scaring the bad guys. They're scaring the deep state types. They're scaring the national security state type people. You're scaring the Saganists, as I like to call them, or the scientific materialists, the people that worship at the altar of Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye the comedian guy. You're scaring them, and so that's why they go after you so intensely. So the way I responded to it ultimately was I finally decided, look, I'm going to pick about a dozen of the stupidest things they've ever said about me, and I'm going to address them, and I addressed them in different blog posts that I created over the years, and then I posted them in a place on my website called Response to Criticism, and basically by the time I feel like anybody who's open-minded, and that's the only person I'm interested in reaching, is somebody who's truly open-minded. Anybody who's open-minded can go there, and they can go through, and they can look, and they can read step by step through the things that I've been accused of and things that people said I said that I never, ever, words that never came out of my mouth. And I figured by the time you get through 12 of them, it's pretty obvious to see who's right 95% of the time or 100% of the time and who's full of it. And so, I just left it at that, and I haven't responded or seen any of this stuff for years. I mean, it's been 3 years at least, probably. I just blocked off all the emails that they had, and I blocked off all the comments on my blog. And so I'm sure they're still out there spinning their wheels, but I just pay zero attention to it. It's like when you break up with a girl, and you just don't go look at her Instagram. It'll just make you nuts, and you'll want to scream at her again. So don't do it. I just haven't done it, and that's the way I've responded to it. And honestly, it's been a really enjoyable 3 years knowing that they're still going crazy and I'm still doing my thing.
Where and those, obviously we don't have to name names. That's just dumb. But those that have attacked you over the years who thought that they were raising their level of visibility, right, and probably doing it for ego. You're in the way, and they're using you for that. Where are they now? Right? It's not like they're publishing books or they have furthered their career. I'm just asking, have they just disappeared?
Well, I mean, as far as I know, I think they're still out there, but I don't really pay any attention to them. The thing is, Jimmy, is that, look, there's nobody has a hater who has a better life than they do. In other words, the people that might hate on you or the people that hate, I don't even know if you have any haters. Maybe you're so universally loved that nobody goes after you. But, Jordan Maxwell told me something really, really important one time. And I said, Jordan, all this stuff you talk about, it's really out there. I call him the patron saint of conspiracy theory. I go, hasn't anybody ever come after you or anything like that? And he said, well, no, I've had people talk to me before. And I asked him that once. And they said, Jordan, as long as people are just hearing you, we don't care. If they started to listen to you, that's when we care. So the way I look at it is the more flack I get, the more concerned the bad guys are that people are listening to me. Sure. And so that to me means that, they're either doing this because they have a deep state agenda, or they're doing this because there's simply an ego involved and they resent the fact that you're on the radio and you're on TV and they think they should be the ones on the radio and they should be the ones on TV. And that's the case. The best way to fight the haters is to just continue to do what you do. I mean, when I sit there on a panel with you and we look out at 1,000, 1,100 people watching us on our panel at Contact in the Desert, and it's beautiful and it's sunny and we're surrounded by all these people that are trying to move forward in life and learn new things, and I think to myself, God, what a privilege it is, and what a great life it is to have, and I just have to think of it in that sense, and they're by doing this, by doing the work that we do and moving forward, we're making them nuts. So I don't really concern myself with them anymore.
Well, John, he brings up a really good point. Are you only, well, first off, you specifically, John, but in general, are you only attacked because you matter, right? If you don't matter, nobody's going to say anything. Am I understanding this right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think Mike articulated it very well. It's makes me want to just print the Teddy Roosevelt's In the Arena for whatever critics happen to come up here and there. I think that's like the best answer you can actually place on those people. But yeah, on the other side of the paranormal, scientific materialist community that's always attacking anybody. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter really who you are in the paranormal, but anyone in the paranormal is attacked by this sort of cynical community that is amazingly well financed and seem to have a lot of time and energy and resources to attack anything that is outside the materialist paradigm. And they're not objective. They're not objective, balanced kind of evaluators of this material. They are rabid attack dogs. And it's really awful to be subjected to their attacks all on a consistent basis. And when it comes up, I mean, you got to do just like Mike said, and just realize that these are haters that are just have their own agenda, and their agenda is not to believe at all. And a lot of times when they're spouting out their little sayings like, where is your proof? What is your proof? I've worked with proof and evidence all my life, and I know what it really means. And it doesn't mean what they're saying, because what they're always saying is, do something to force me to believe. That's what they're really saying. And even if we could force them, we shouldn't try, because it's not a winning strategy to grow this area and to open up this area to more people in the mainstream.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just stand in your own truth and say what you know to be true, and let people come to it and find it on their own. I mean, that's what most of us, I think, do, and that's why when people complain about some of the newcomers on the scene, that supposedly don't have any proof of the stories that they're telling, I'm fine with that, because they're telling their own truth. I've met enough of them and talked to enough of them that I've never met anybody that I really would say I think was being deceptive and had an agenda. And I've talked to a lot of these guys that have been getting a lot of flack, and it's like, I think a lot of it stems from simple jealousy of their success. People want to hear these stories. Yeah. Ultimately, the market will decide, right? The market will tell us whether or not somebody has lasting staying power in the business.
Well, and that's a really, really good point. This community has always had a way of flushing out who they want here. Right? If you're not wanted, if you're not trusted, if your message isn't resonating, it's over. You're not going to. Move
we
forward.
all know people that don't get invited to anything anymore because of their personal conduct and their professional conduct. And I mean, we could name names. I'm going to let the audience guess at who they are, but you know them and I know Jimmy, and it's like that's just the way it is, and ultimately the market decides, the audience decides who stays and who goes.
And no movement has ever grown or had great success without new people and without younger people and without growing that audience. So when you hear these people who are from a very long time ago, who complain about newcomers and the person hasn't done anything in the community and now they're doing this, doing that, it just rings very inauthentic. It rings very hollow when you hear that sort of thing, because we want this community to succeed, we want it to grow, we want it to reach out to mainstream people, and you can't do that unless you grow it, unless you have it with new people, younger people as well.
Yeah, and the three of us, I'm just going to say Contact in the Desert because it just happened, also because it's so friggin' huge and wonderful. But here we are, the three of us, walking around, and you see such a wonderful cross-section of ages. Very young to very old, right? I gave away a Fade to Black t-shirt to a 94-year-old woman. Her name was Mary. How cool is that, right? I gave away a t-shirt to a 3-year-old little girl who was there with her father. How cool is that, right? And nothing but a wonderful experience going around there. And I can tell you, and I want both of your opinions, if there was a bunch of negativity flying around there, that wouldn't resonate with that crowd. They're not there to hear negative. It wouldn't sway anybody, would it, Mike?
No, it's completely out of sync with the event itself, with the energetic flow of the event itself. So it wouldn't work. I mean, highly negative people, and there are a few of them in the community, they don't come there. They're not invited there, and people don't want to see them. So, it's kind of like it just wouldn't fit, and it wouldn't work, and that's not what happened at all. That's never what's happened there. In fact, I've talked to many people who always find their first experience there to be the most extraordinary thing that they've ever gone through in terms of a UFO conference or getting information from people. And there's just so much great stuff and great energy there that you can't avoid it. You can't avoid soaking in the good that happens at that place. And it's just Victoria and Paul have just created an extraordinary event that everybody should go to every year, because you're always going to hear amazing new stuff every year.
Yeah,
so,
and John, to that end, and we've only got about 2 minutes left. John, 20 years in the FBI. Now you're in the paranormal UFO community now. Why do you think that social media negativity or a negative YouTube video pointed at somebody, do you think that's going to have any success? Do you think it would sway the opinions of the people that you have met?
No, ultimately that sort of stuff is just white noise in the background. It doesn't have a lasting effect. It doesn't really bring us down, because we continue to do what we do, and we go to these conferences, which I can tell folks, conferences like Contact in the Desert, there's nothing like the feedback, the emotional feedback, the spiritual feedback that you get, especially for somebody like me who was in government work for over 20 years, which is kind of a cold gray place, sort of in a lot of ways, especially compared to this community. And I'm just like incredibly humbled, and I'm just really happy to be in this community now and be able to benefit from that.
Mike, I'm going to give you the last word. We've got 60 seconds, and thank you for that, John.
Goody.
Mike, you get the last word. How does the UFO community come together and move forward past this last 3 weeks of darkness?
Well, I mean, stop being jealous of each other, for one thing. I mean, look, the bottom line is there are people that are going to come in with entertaining stories. They may or may not be true. In a lot of cases, they can't prove them because they're just not the kind of stories you're going to be able to prove. You're not going to be allowed to walk out of Area 51 with a piece of the Roswell flying saucer. So let's take people at their word. And I've discovered that when I talk to anybody one-on-one in the community, the people I've met, Whitley Strieber, Corey Good, David Wilcock, all these guys, they're all people of good heart and good intent, and give them the benefit of the doubt, and you just basically take the information that fits for you and keep it, and the information that doesn't, let it go. And there's just, the thing is that we're all talking about the same extraordinary events that are going on around the world, and we're just saying it to people in different ways with different language and through different methods. And so I would say stick to your guns and don't let a few bad apples who don't get invited to big conferences anymore ruin this thing.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, John. John, welcome to the community, and your level-headedness will always prevail. But you still look like an FBI agent, man. You're never gonna shake it. Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Mike. You guys Jimmy. Behave.
Thanks, Jimmy.
And thank you for participating tonight in our UFO Roundtable. Coming up next, Steve Murillo. That's right, the director of UPARS. And Tom Danheiser, producer of Coast to Coast AM. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat. Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn
it. This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple enough. Tonight is our community roundtable, and we are discussing, has the UFO community been infiltrated? The last 3 weeks, we have seen the fanning of the flames from a few individuals and groups that have been pointed at a wide variety of groups and people and organizations and networks in our own community. And what do we do about it? Have we been infiltrated? That's the question tonight. I've put together the 10 best, brightest, and most respected members of our community to help us get through and discuss this very important issue. Now, next on the show, I have from UPARS, the director of UPARS here in Los Angeles, Steve Murillo is here, and Tom Danheiser, producer of Coast to Coast AM. And I'm going to try to direct this first. I'm going to say, good evening, Tom. I know you've got a show to do tonight with George, and thank you for taking the time to come on with us tonight. How are you?
Jimmy, thank you very much. And I just want to know, am I now an official Fade or Not?
Yes, you are, dude. When you knocked back that tequila on New Year's Eve over at the house, that you were an official Fade or Not from that night forward. And you know what's funny? I just realized, Steve Murillo. Steve, good evening.
Good evening, Jimmy. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay,
Steve was at that dinner that night, and you guys knocked back tequila together. So here we are.
Yes, we did.
Here we are tonight. Now, Tom has got a show to do tonight with George. And by the way, how is George feeling, Tom?
Oh, he cracked a tooth or did something, but he's fine.
So
he's doing okay.
He's not heavily medicated. He's going to make it through coast tonight.
Well, he will now, but when I walked in today, I said, "Hey, George," and he went, "Oh, look, there's this." So he was pretty medicated.
Which is why George told me said earlier tonight, he said, I love to come on the show, but I can't talk, and it's kind of funny. So, Tom, thank you for taking the time tonight. You have been part of the UFO community, of course, been a producer for Coast to Coast AM for a very, very, very long time. You've seen everything in this community, and so has Steve. But for you, this last 3 weeks, it's been kind of crazy. What do you think is actually going on and motivating all of this negativity?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you, how close-minded do you have to be if you don't know that life exists in the universe and it's not just about us? I mean, give me a break. But I think, I was listening. I agree with what you said earlier. You said negativity will never change your mind. And I know what I've seen and what I've witnessed. I've been out with Bassett. I've been on sightings, and I know what I saw, and it will not change my mind either. And, doing with this show, dealing with it, I've experienced all kinds of haters, and not just about this subject. And they're always going to be out there. But if you let them get to you and alter yourself, then that's a problem. You don't want to do that. So you just got to tough it out.
And
they'll always be there.
And coming from you, certainly you have dealt with your haters out there, your trolls, whatever you want to call them. How do you even respond anymore?
No. You know what? I've seen the nastiest stuff about myself, about George, about the show on the internet, and you just can't. You can't respond. Listen, there's a great quote. I want to read this to you real quick. It says, "If I would have listened to the naysayers, I would still be in the Austrian Alps yodeling." That's from Arnold Schwarzenegger, and look how far he's come.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. That's a really good point. Arnold just made it into the show.
Arnold.
Yeah, pretty good. Steve, now for you were the director of MUFON LA for 13 years, but more so than that, and I'm very proud when I introduce you in this fashion, like I have done over the years. You're a graduate of the United States Naval Academy. You're a former Marine fighter pilot. Your pedigree, your CV, your reputation is second to none, and you've always stood on what is right. But you've also experienced everything in ufology. Have you ever seen anything like this last 3 weeks? What do you think is causing all of these individuals and groups to just come completely unhinged?
Unglued. I don't know. I think there's a lot of pent-up anger out there that's been going on since let's say it's politically motivated. A lot of people didn't get what they were hoping for or wanted, and I think that's causing a lot of negativity, just sort of pent-up negativity within the masses. I'm not saying everybody feels that way, but I think that that's certainly part of it. The fact of you have that anonymity when you're on the internet, when you're trolling, you can just basically say whatever you want and vent that anger, and it can be very caustic. It can come out even worse than what you meant to say. Having said that, are we infiltrated? Have we been infiltrated? I think that's always been the case. The subject itself of, let's say, UFOs, ufology, has been super secret since the beginning. Let's say take it all the way back to Roswell, when shortly thereafter the CIA was founded to put this whole subject under control. And they've done a very effective job in that. So if you were the CIA and you own this subject, you were in charge of controlling this information, the first thing you're going to do is infiltrate just about any organization out there, and certainly the public organizations are easy to infiltrate. MUFON, NICAP before that. NICAP fell maybe because of infiltration. And, you're going to do that. You're going to listen, and you're going to watch, and you're going to control the narrative to whatever degree you want to. And I think that that's been done effectively by the CIA and other operatives. And there we are. It's the most closely guarded secret that has hit humanity in modern age. And it's going to be controlled and protected. by those who control and protect it to the end. And so, but I don't know what's causing the negativity here. You know, I think it might be spurious. Maybe it was like a spark that set off a flame and now it's exploding like a powder keg. That might be part of it.
And Tom, for you, obviously you're booking guests. You speak with researchers and authors and contactees and everything from ghosts and the paranormal to the Fed and politics and the military-industrial complex, all the way over into ufology and contactees. But is it your job, not only as a producer, but you know, for the largest show of its kind in the world, is it your job to vet or discredit somebody?
No, not at all. My job is to put out the subject matter and let you guys decide. I'm not either way, bending either way. But I think most of this negativity, for me, the negativity comes from jealousy. There's so many people out there doing such great work in the world of ufology, and these people that spit this stuff out, they're jealous because they're not in the thick of it. They can't weave themselves into it, and the jealousy comes out.
Why do you think that is? Yeah. Why do you think that is? It seems to be, it surfaces quite a bit in ufology, but why do you think it's so prevalent in our community? I was warned about this, you know, years and years and years ago, and I was like, nah. And I'm here now, and I was like, I can't believe that this stuff actually goes on. Why the jealousy in ufology, Tom?
Well, because if you're someone who, let's say, has nothing to do in their life, okay, and you're sitting around and night after night you're listening to your show, you're listening to Coast to Coast, you're hearing all this cool stuff that's being uncovered and just the amount of progress that's being made in ufology, and you keep hearing that, it's just going to hammer out you. And if you're, you know, let's face it, if you're sitting around and you're kind of a loser, you're going to think of something that's going to amuse you, and, you know, your jealousy comes out, and, hey, I'll be amused. Let me spit this out there and see what kind of a drawback they can get.
So you think it's about, you think it's about clicks, likes, and subscribers.
I do, and the payoff for them is when you act upon it. If you don't let this stuff get to you, if you stay positive, move forward, learn more stuff, keep learning about the subject, in this case, ufology, that's how you top them, because they're not going to get any satisfaction from the jealousy that they're spewing.
I'm going to throw that same question over to you, Steve. Why do we have? I agree with Tom. I'm just wondering if you have a different take.
I think there are other aspects to it. I agree with Tom that there are those who are just sitting back on the sidelines and watching things and not really having any power or doing any actual research. But also, some of the researchers that we've come across want to say that they have the answer. They're the only, you know what I mean? Those types of people. If somebody in ufology says, I've got the answer and I know exactly what's going on, that's the exact person you should turn and walk away from. For example, I'm not going to name his name, but the guy that's Billy Meyer's advocate, he says he's got the only answer. Okay. Now there's another guy who's very popular. He's a doctor of medicine or what, and he says he's got the answer. And they have followers. And those followers will then, you know, because they're followers, you hate on other groups, and then you have this infighting thing going on as well. So it's not just even the people on the sidelines, but sometimes researchers. There's also, you know, let's say one researcher is kind of slow, and they derive some of their income from the circuit, let's say, speaking on the circuit, and they don't have any new material, and somebody else has come across something new. There's that jealousy that Tom mentioned earlier that comes out, and they attack. And it's a shame. It's human nature. And I think it's going to always be there, but we have to guard against it. You know, a true researcher has to keep an open mind and be willing to accept and consider just about any idea, because the truth of this phenomenon is that it is fluid, and it shifts and changes almost in a deceptive way. So you have to be willing to flow with it and go with new information and explore it to its end and find and figure out if it works for you or not, if it fits the paradigm or not. you always have to have that open mind. And without that, you end up with this infighting thing and this negativity again. So, yeah. That's my answer.
Yeah, and Tom, I'm going to throw this over to you, and I do know that you've got to run, you've got a show to do tonight. But if we can't have an open dialogue, an open conversation with everybody's experiences and information in our community, we can't have it anywhere, can we?
No, not at all, and that makes you dead. You know, I know a lot of ufologists and a lot of smart people and good researchers, and I don't think one of them would say, I know it all, I've got the total answer. And so, yes, Jimmy, you're correct. You need to listen and have dialogue and keep learning. And by the way, if someone does tell you they know it all, stay away.
Yep.
Hey, Tom. Tom, I know you've got a show to do tonight. Give our best to George and who do you guys have on tonight, by the way?
Well, the first half, we're going to talk to Matt Stein, and he's going to talk about billionaires who stockpile land for survival retreats. So that'll be interesting.
Oh,
and then we're going to go to Billy Carson and talk about ET life and the cover-up.
That's what I'm talking about. Tom, you have a great show. You have a great show tonight. Go to work. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thanks for having me on, Jimmy.
You got it, Tommy. Tommy Danheiser. You know, it's really funny. They go on the air here in 40 minutes, and he just took out, 17 minutes to hang out here, which is a very, very, very important subject to us all. And I just want to say thank you, Tom. And, George wanted to be here tonight, everybody. He literally had some pretty crazy dental work done today, and he couldn't. If he could have, he would have been here. And he wanted me to tell everybody hello. Okay, so back to you, Steve. The thing that you have done over the years is you have done monthly presentations every single month, conferences, little mini conferences, of 100 or 200 people every single month. And you have had every type. I've attended many of them. I've spoken at many of them.
Yep.
And you've had every type of presenter that you can imagine over there. But you have also, with that, you have to step back and listen. Do you ever pin somebody against the wall or question somebody's integrity or message?
No. First of all, they're my guest, and you would never do that, Jim. You and Rhea, you're such gracious hosts. You would never do that to a guest you invite into your home.
Right.
And it's the same way with our meetings, know. I have had people where I'm like, I don't say it. I'm thinking it. I'm thinking, not enough information to really, to support that, but okay. And you leave it up to the audience and to your people to make the decision for themselves. Again, you present the information, and then it's our job as researchers and interested people to sift through that information and take what we can use, what agrees with us, what resonates, and then throughout, leave the rest alone. So yeah, no, I would never, I never do that. I would never pin somebody against the wall. I've been tempted on occasion, but it's just not polite. It's not good form to do something like that. And, but again, whether a person, you have to sort through it. Sometimes people will have a lot of not so much good stuff, and then all of a sudden, boom, they hit you with a gem that everybody's jaw just drops to the floor. Like, what did that person say? What information did he just pass? And let's go over that again. So you never know where it's going to come from. And again, it's back to keeping an open mind to the subject. And we're sort of a conglomerate. We're sort of like this mass research group, that's trying to sort through a phenomenon, a subject that's almost intelligently elusive. It's almost trying to deceive us. I think that sometimes because you're led down many paths and end up in dead ends. Or that open up. They were a dead end a year ago or 2 years ago, and all of a sudden now it's open again. So I know that's kind of hard to grasp, or not grasp, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. But yet that's what I've observed.
Well, and so is it if you were going to give advice to our community, to the listeners right now, are you suggesting that they have that same exact frame of mind to not?
Absolutely.
Right. To maintain the open mind, and if you're questioning anything, well, then that's safe and that's okay too. But you just must listen.
Again, yeah. Sorry to interrupt, Jim. Yeah, I don't mean to say that to accept everything.
Right.
I think you have to keep an open mind to listen, but then after you hear, you have to investigate. You have to hunt it down. If an outlandish claim is made, you know. Outlandish claims demand outlandish evidence. You know, you got to hunt it down, and if you can't produce it, you can't find it. Well, then you really can't. You can't hang your hat on it. So, the truth definitely is out there somewhere, but it may be changing on us always, and that's the part of it I like. You know.
With the infiltration that you're referring to, that has always been here in our community, and I don't think that's ever been questioned, but with that happening today, do you think that there's the possibility of some mind control going on here, where everybody was activated at the same time and is suddenly completing their mission objective?
Oh man, that's a crazy idea. And it could play. That could very well be the case. Some sort of MK Ultra thing going on, where all of a sudden everybody's switched on and let's go for this. I was watching YouTube today, as I often do, you know, catching up on the news, and somebody had something about Katy Perry flipping out on stage and just shutting down, and you know, I don't know. I was watching, going, well, maybe it was part of the act. I don't know, but. Yeah, I dig what you're saying, that there could be something like that going on. Certainly MK Ultra was real. We know that mind control experiments and mind control exists and was done, again, by our friends at the CIA and elsewhere. So, yeah, certainly a possibility.
The communities that we have, not only MUFON, but you have UPARS, and we have conferences and these networks and so forth. The negative attacks that have been very laser focused on all of these different groups and organizations and networks. Is any of it going to be successful, or are we just going to continue to move on?
You know, it's a good question. Large organizations tend not to move well on their feet. So unless you perceive the threat for what it is, it may do its damage before you're able to move on it. You know what I mean? And that damage may be irreparable. It almost happened, I think, recently to MUFON. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
No names. Comments that were made.
Yeah.
The 4 comments that were made. But, you know, the director of MUFON spotted it, thankfully, hopefully, soon enough, and was able to come out publicly against it. And it was he had to do it. It was a good move. I knew he would do it eventually. And I think he moved, you know, in time. But I think if he had waited a little bit longer, it might have been irreparably, his organization might have been irreparably damaged.
And why divide and conquer? The UFO community just seems to be a victim of this time. It never stops. But it hasn't been successful. It just hasn't. We're bigger and stronger than we've ever been. But yet there are these attempts to get people to either change their minds or hate somebody or hate a subject or hate a group or break off. And it continues. Why divide and conquer?
That's the classic strategy. I think it's being done not just to our UFO community, but to our country. So you create a boogeyman, you create a problem, and then you provide the solution. But that solution includes dividing the organization into 2 or 3 or 4 factions that you get fighting among themselves, right? So they waste their energy fighting among themselves, meanwhile misdirected, and then not paying attention to what's really going on, the true subject, the importance, you know.
And why?
So, but why now? You know, why attack all at once all these different groups now? I don't know. Is it because disclosure's around the corner and they're trying to control that? Is it, which I don't think. I don't think so. So that would be the only reason that I could think of. Why bring down organizations that are essentially powerless? Like, we're never okay. Let me give my 2 cents on disclosure. I don't think that we'll ever force disclosure. Disclosure will happen only because of the alien presence. The phenomena wants it to happen, and that's about the only way it's going to happen, because the people that are controlling the information now basically control everything. I mean, if you look at the narrative they've been controlling in our country, creating a boogeyman, before the election. I'm going political here, but it's a good example of this. So, the first boogeyman is emails, and then the second boogeyman is the Russia hack, right? And then Russia collusion, and on and on, and it will continue. So you create this boogeyman, and then you divide the country, you get them fighting, and everybody's paying attention to the latest, boogeyman out there. So, even so far as to create false flags that end up violent and lives are lost. So it's unfortunate, but that their tactics are to the death. They don't care. So the people controlling this information control those types of people. Do you know what I mean? This is the most important topic of our lifetimes and of our great grandkids' lifetimes. The topic of ufology, the topic of UFOs, the topic of free energy, and that's ultimately what's at stake, because it's a paradigm shift in how this world will operate. All of the big fat cats right now that control oil, money, war, they're all put out of business as soon as this information comes out, and they are the ones that control the world. They control the information. They control the media. Therefore, they control the minds of the people.
Right.
And once this information comes out, it's game over for them. They're out of a job. They're out of business. They lose everything. They've lost control, and they're no longer the elite. And that's what they fear. That's what they fear. That's what they're fighting against. So, if they can control a country and its election and its political views simply through manipulation of the media, do you think for 1 second that they would let this cat out of the bag if they can control it? Not for a second. Not for a second. It'll never come out. Disclosure will never be forced by the public out. I don't think. We may come upon it on our own, but it will never be forced out of their hand.
That's very interesting, Steve. And we have 60 seconds. So quick question, quick answer. Okay. I get links in my email or whatever, Twitter, or, whatever. I get Facebook, whatever. I get people sending me links all day long. Check this out. Check this out. Check out this video. First off, I never click on any links. I don't do it. I have that discipline. I don't watch it. I don't care. I don't have time.
Right.
But why do people use YouTube as vetted fact? Some Yahoo on YouTube presenting some crazy video with this great, why? How have we become that acclimated? Why do we do it?
I really don't know. How much poor CGI have you watched on YouTube? Check out this UFO. Oh God, this is and you look at it, you go, man, that's not even good CGI.
Well,
come on.
Yes, it's not even that. There's that, of course, that's obvious. But it's other debunking or false flag research or presenting this list of facts that is completely unvetted, most of it just made up, right? It's fantastical.
Right.
People watch it and it's like they're reading the Bible. And they Why?
I think we're programmed to do that, Jimmy. I mean, look, you and I were raised through the age of television, right? Before cable, there was just television.
Right.
And that was our entertainment. We watched, Leave It to Beaver and all those shows and believed Walter Cronkite because he was, whatever he said was gold. You could take it to the bank almost, right? We're programmed to believe what we see on TV, to what we see on video. And that programming has continued through our culture to our children. We passed it on to our kids and our grandkids now. And now they're on YouTube, but it's basically the same media. It's video. And, of course, there's all the true stuff about, changing the frequency of the frame rate and all that, so that you become mesmerized and you're more easily, you're gullible, basically. You're influenced by what you see on TV.
Steve,
they found ways to make that message go real easy.
Steve, with that, my friend, go back to your evening. Thank you so much. You're just a beautiful voice in ufology. Thank you, my friend, and for taking time out of your evening. Very important conversation tonight. That is Steve Murillo, director of MUPARS, and of course Tom Danheiser, producer of Coast to Coast AM. Coming up next, director of MUFON, Jan Harzan, and the director of the National UFO Reporting Center, Mr. Peter Davenport. This is Fade to Black, and I'll be right back.
Hey, what up, y'all? Sugar Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Okay, Jan,
so you went to dinner last night,
there.
you had
Peter,
your favorite pasta.
Right there. Welcome to the program.
Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you.
So just relax.
Get the T.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Get the T.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. Get the T.com. That's gettheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Tonight is our roundtable. Has the UFO community been infiltrated? It's been a crazy 3-4 weeks. Just an amazing panel tonight. I want to thank everybody. And I'm just going to come out and say it. Save the best for last, because now I would like to welcome to the program the Executive Director of MUFON, Jan Harzan, and the Director of the National UFO Reporting Center, the one and only Mr. Peter Davenport. Peter, I'm going to address you first and say welcome to the program. How are you?
Thank you, Jimmy. It's nice to be back, and nice to be appearing with Jan as well. Good evening to both of you and to our audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Peter. And Jan, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
And heated discussions tonight, and obviously this is very important to our community, something that isn't addressed often, and certainly not often enough. But Jan, I'm going to throw this over to you first, if you don't mind, Peter. Jan is the old guy in the room right now. Okay, so let's give it to Jan. Jan, the last 3 weeks for you, you've been a part of this. And it is a slice of a pie that's been cut up. It's been directed, this upheaval and negativity has been directed at a few different organizations and individuals, too. And MUFON is part of that. What do you think is going on right now in the community, and how is MUFON addressing it?
Well, I think that, there's been a lot of craziness the last few weeks. And honestly, I think people just need to really calm down and think before they speak. We seem to be in a society where people feel that they can put all their emotions on social media and everybody else is supposed to listen to them. But I think if we're thoughtful about what we're doing, if we think before we speak, there's a little acronym, THINK, which is make sure that it's true, make sure that it's helpful, make sure that it's inspiring, make sure it's necessary, and make sure it is kind. If it's not one of those 5 things, then you probably shouldn't be saying it.
Peter, you've been doing this for a long time, and I'm going to say thank you from our entire community for everything that you do and continue to do.
Thank you, Jimmy, and the same goes to Jan Harzan and all the MUFON folks. They work very hard too.
There's no question about that, and you have seen the ebb and flow of negativity and attacks and infiltration and disinfo over the years. Have you ever seen anything that quite this crazy over this last month or so? And do you think that the community has been infiltrated?
I have to plead ignorance, because whatever's been going on in the UFO community, I have to be quite honest with you, Jimmy, I'm not aware of. And it's one of the luxuries of working by yourself, as I do. It's really the National UFO Reporting Center, as Jan knows and many other people know, is really only one person with a webmaster. And so I think it's correct to say that I'm doing the same thing today that I was doing 20 years ago with the National UFO Reporting Center, namely taking reports and screening them and posting them so people may know what's really going on, as opposed to what our government apparently wants us all to think is going on.
And you said to me, and the reason why I wanted you to say that, because it's very, very, very important. You said something to me earlier today that just blew my mind, which is, Jimmy, what's going on right now is exactly why I run alone, right? and
I'm sort of a loner by nature. May explain why I'm pushing. My next birthday, I'll be 70, and I'm still not married. So I just enjoy doing this work by myself. And once you get volunteers, I dread what Jan must have to put up with in the course of a typical month, with all the personnel concerns and problems and so on and so forth. I don't have to put up with that, and I can focus on the actual work of ufology, namely collecting data, sifting through it, and posting it so the public can know what's going on.
So ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, in my case, yes.
Jan, you have experienced that word, disinfo and infiltration and influence from the outside on a global scale. It's your job. Has ufology always been infiltrated with disinformation, and we are forced into running our own filters?
Well, yeah, before I answer that, let me just say that many people don't know how closely Peter and I and the MUFON organization work together. I just think my hat off to Peter for all the great work that he does, because as a one-man operation, he does an incredible amount of great things. And we often check our two databases to make sure what's being seen. But to answer your question, I think we are certainly closely watched as a group, because just think about it. What's being reported to us by the public could possibly be top secret aircraft developed by our government that they don't want other people to know about. They don't want the Russians to know about. We've had attacks from Russia. We've had attacks from Afghanistan on our computer systems. There's always people out there trying to take it down, make it go away. But I think overall, we just need to stay strong, get the information out to the public, and just keep banging on the rock. And one of these days it's going to shatter, and we're going to have the answers.
Have you ever caught anybody inside of MUFON that was deliberately participating in disinformation?
No, I haven't. But I mean, that's hard to say. I mean, that's one of the first questions I asked myself. I was listening to Steve speak earlier. You know, when you put these speakers on in conferences and different things, even local chapter meetings, you know, it's very hard to tell where the truth is, right? And so I often tell the audience is, look, this could be disinformation. So you have to be discerning. You have to listen. Just because you hear it doesn't mean you have to believe it. But you might want to listen, be polite, and ask the tough questions, but then make up your own mind. And so I am sure that our field is fraught with disinformation. I just believe that that's part of the dirty tricks that are being played on the whole UFO field. But I'm not aware of any specific ones myself.
What would you do if something like that surfaced? I mean, do you have an infrastructure in place to deal with somebody that could be possibly not only under the payroll, but there deliberately to affect the MUFON organization?
Well, obviously, we do our best to distance ourselves from them and take them off any of our computer systems and make sure they're not having access to sensitive data. Maybe the first thing we do. But yeah, we have protocols to follow, and we do that. We do watch it very closely. But again, it's hard. You know, this is the one question I always get asked: like, is MUFON infiltrated? Well, there's only 2 employees in MUFON: myself and my office manager. We have 2 contractors beyond that also do things for us. But our computer systems are set up so that when reports come in, they're immediately sent out to the public. So there's nothing held on to. The only thing is we have a filter in it to take out all the 4-letter words that some people seem to want to put into their reports. So, but those get cleaned up. The ones that are junk reports, we just put into a bucket and hold them. But everything, 100% of everything that comes in goes back out to the public.
What do you think is behind the negativity that has gone on with all of these different individuals, and not only the ones that are the perps on one side, but the focus on organizations and networks that has been happening over the last month? What do you think is causing this?
Well, you know, President Reagan had a sign on his desk, which I really liked. It was a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And it was, there's no limit to what can be accomplished if we don't care who gets the credit. And I think too many times people are trying to make themselves more important than they are. To me, it's all about getting to the answer. I could care about being famous. I could care about that. I just want to get the answers, collect the data, get scientists to look at it, try to get some answers to this thing. In my lifetime, I'd like to know exactly where these objects are coming from and what they're about and why they're here.
What do you think, and I'm going to send this over to Peter, too, as well. What do you think about the status of the evidence that is here today? You guys have always been about collecting data, trace evidence, physical evidence, going out on different sites and locations, and certainly video evidence too as well. But that there doesn't seem to be as much of that today as there is experiences, right? Somebody's experience of seeing, being, going, and making contact. Race talked about that a little bit earlier, that today we are about the experience probably more than we are about the evidence, because we accept that aliens are here. Do you feel that there's a change in MUFON with that approach to ufology?
Well, there's two sides to the question. The first side is the physical data, and we've had some extraordinary cases come to us over the last 12 months. Case 74282, which was a barbell-shaped craft, which was captured on video by a defense contractor when he was on a bear hunting trip up in northern Canada, and actually got the waveforms from the craft that came off of it, and figured out that it was counter-rotating, supermagnetic counter-rotating engines that were pulsed at 132 hertz. Now that's pretty significant data to have, and I just had lunch today with a physicist who is working on this in the white world to talk about some of these things and how we might use this to get ourselves to go interstellar as a country, as a world. I think that's one of the things that's really going to break this thing wide open. As soon as we are able to transport ourselves interstellar across the vast reaches of space, I think we're going to run into a lot of life out there, and I think that's going to pretty much shatter everything that we're, as far as people believing maybe we're alone in the universe.
Peter, what do you think about that? We have so much video evidence, so much eyewitness testimony now. What do you see coming into the National UFO Reporting Center, and how do you think the audience should respond to the evidence that is presented today? Do you think there's a shift in what we accept and what we don't?
Well, I pretty much agree with what Jan had to say. Most reports that I receive really are not high-quality reports from the standpoint of a scientific analysis or a scientific basis. However, as Jan cited one very good case about a barbell, I too get some really, really intriguing cases that appear to come from people who are highly qualified witnesses and highly reliable sources of information. The case I would cite is the one I received from a retired former U.S. astronaut. 5th of July, 2013, he was at his home in Athens, Texas, about 75 miles southeast of Dallas, and he saw a cluster of these very peculiar red or orange lights that have been reported both to MUFON and to my organization for the last 5 years in very large numbers. I've taken probably, I estimate, I haven't measured it, somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 such reports. So there is a steady stream, albeit a small stream, of very good, highly reliable, what appear to be highly reliable reports, and they're telling us, I think, the same thing I would conclude that Jan concluded. We probably live in a galaxy that is teeming with intelligent civilizations, intelligent creatures, and sophisticated civilizations, and we are just on the cutting edge of discovering the truth about all of this.
And when somebody says to you, Peter, that's fine, the reports are fine, but I need evidence, what's your response to that?
Well, my evidence is to point them in the direction of passive radar. We now have the technical and technological capability of building a radar detection system that will allow us to remove the eyewitness or the fuzzy photographs, of which there are so many. And we can detect UFOs directly with reflected radio and television signals. And that's what I want to do. You mentioned the next step, in my opinion, and Jan is well familiar with the proposal to use passive radar for detecting UFOs. The next step is to build our own radar, which we control and which will detect any kind of anomalous object in the near-Earth environment.
Yeah, without government interference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm going to have you on Fade to Black, maybe even Coast to Coast. We'll do both, and discuss this and take this to the next level. Jan, I wanted to ask you a question. the first time you were, I'm trying to think, man, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago when you were on the show. You told us about a sighting that you had as a child here in the Valley, right? A pretty mind-blowing experience, and your description of the craft is still, it's burned into my brain. But, okay, and now you went public and you discussed this on the show. And then when somebody comes to you and says, okay, Jan, I heard you on Fade to Black and I heard about this, but man, what about the evidence? How can I believe you? I need evidence. What's your response to that?
Well, I've had two major opportunities in my life. The first was when I was 10 years old with my brother to see this craft in our backyard, hovering 10 feet off the ground, 30 feet from us. So, and the second was in '93 to hear a talk by Ben Rich at the UCLA School of Engineering alumni meeting, and in that case, I had another witness with me, was Tom Keller. So in both instances, for whatever reason, by the grace of God, I had somebody else there who saw and heard exactly what I saw and heard. So I've often thought about that. What would happen if it was just myself and it was just my story? Would anyone believe me? So I can't say why that happened, but in both instances, there was a second witness, which has corroborated everything that I've said.
Is that evidence, though? Is you know what I mean?
Oh. Well, okay. No, I hear you.
Because I have the same stories, right? Just like you, and I'm often confronted with that. So
well, this is something I think when I hear people say extraordinary things, I always think to myself, well, okay, maybe should I not believe this person? But I always think, well, then why should anyone believe me? So we all have these experiences as humans, some of them pretty extraordinary, and most of us choose not to talk about them. In my case, it became evident to me that, hey, I've had this experience. I should talk about it. I should go out and make people aware of it, because I think it's probably the most significant thing that's ever going to happen to mankind is to figure out and find out that we're not alone in this universe.
And that's a great point. I'm going to come back to Peter, but I want you to finish the thought. Because of your own experience, that allows you to listen to others who have maybe extraordinary claims or extraordinary experiences, but you listen because you know what happened to you and your brother.
Correct.
Peter, same thing for you?
Yeah. The reason I'm on this program tonight is because of an incident that occurred 64 years ago in St. Louis, right on the south edge of St. Louis Airport. I had a sighting. Any of our listeners can read my written account of what I experienced, and it was an event that was witnessed, no doubt, by certainly hundreds of people, maybe even thousands. People who were getting out of their cars at a drive-in theater. They were ignoring the movie. They were racing around, shouting. They were slamming car doors and yelling. And there was a very, very bizarre, extremely bright red object hovering in the nighttime sky. I didn't know it at the time. I was 6 years of age at the time. I didn't know it while I was looking at the object, but my father was in the air traffic control tower on the other side of St. Louis Airport, on the north side at that time, near McDonnell. And they were all looking at it with binoculars as well, trying to figure out what it was. Very dramatic event. And just as a codicil, just as an addendum to my comment, there's only one written account of that sighting, even though thousands of people must have seen it. And it's something we're up against in ufology. I estimate that out of somewhere between 10,000 and 20,000 adult, competent, clear-thinking Americans who see a UFO, or what most likely was a UFO, only one out of that 10 or 20,000 will ever come forward. One person out of 20,000. That's what we ufologists are up against, is trying to get people to come forward.
Your numbers that you have been putting together, and I've been reading some of the press releases on this, especially over the last 2 years, the numbers and the amount of sightings are up an extraordinary amount. Now, Peter, can you attribute that to our own aircraft, black programs, or are we just being visited more?
I'm going to have to take issue with the statistics cited, and I credit MUFON for having done this work. I think Roger Marsh might have been one of the spear points, the editor of the MUFON Journal, and other individuals in MUFON. They have published articles that suggest that there's actually been a reduction in the number of reports relative to prior years. However, I would like to address a related issue that supports your statement, Jimmy, and that is, in my opinion, and I'd welcome Jan's comment on this, in my opinion, the quality, the nature of the reports that I am receiving has changed, and it leads me to believe that these objects we call UFOs and aliens and so forth are apparently more willing to show themselves overtly today than was the case even 5 years ago.
Jan, what do you think? You think the sightings are up? Certainly you have the data in front of you.
Well, yeah, actually, I mean, for us, they've tailed off a tad. But what I've done is I've looked at the sightings that have come in a given year that were from that year, because we get reports from past years too, and it's been in the 6,000 to 8,000 range for us. I mean, and our form's a little harder to fill out because we take a lot of data in. So it's been pretty consistent for us the last 5 years in terms of the amount of sightings we've been getting. We've been also finding some very, very quality cases in there. I mentioned the one on the barbell. We had one last year too, where a craft landed in New York, and when it was investigated, the background radiation within the center of the circle where the craft landed was 6 times background. And when you stepped out of that, went right back to background radiation. So there was definitely some kind of a advanced technology craft that had landed there.
I want to thank the both of you in advance for coming on tonight. This is just a very important subject to all of us, and I think that we can kind of deduce the overall flavor of the show tonight from everybody is we just have to listen to, our community has to listen to everybody. We cannot clamp people down or censor or shut people off, because then they're just going to stop talking, and then we have nothing in the end.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much, Jan, for taking out the time tonight to take part in this very important discussion. I want to thank the both of you. Peter, I'll probably see you in a couple of weeks on Coast to Coast. My favorite part of Coast is when Peter comes on a Friday night, and I get to listen to Peter do his rundown of the latest sightings. Yeah, you got to
be. Thanks for the kind words, and I look forward to my next appearance on Fade to Black or Coast.
Thank you so much, Peter. Behave out there. Keep doing your thing.
All right,
hey,
thank you.
Jimmy, is it possible I could just finalize on one last note?
Yeah, absolutely, Jan.
Yeah, I very much feel, and we talked about it earlier in the show, about a major shift coming. And it's almost like we sit on the San Andreas Fault here in Southern California, and at any moment it could rupture and send us on a wild ride. We're sitting on that same kind of a fault in the UFO community, and it's really three-pronged. The first is the search for exoplanets. I mean, we've got Earth-sized planets being found almost daily by our astronomers, which are pointing out to people that there is definitely life out there in the universe. Second is private space. With private space, within the next 5 to 10 years, you and I are going to be going up in space and being able to get up there and see things for ourselves firsthand.
Right.
We've got China, India, Japan, all putting probes on the moon, sending them to Mars, trying to put men on the moon. So anything could happen there. And the last is there's a group of people, about 30 or 50 scientists, who are working in the white world on this faster-than-light travel, and are very close to making a breakthrough on that. And frankly, any one of those three could be a major rupture that will send us to the point where people will say, oh my gosh, absolutely, we're not alone. There is other life out there.
I think we're right on the edge. And I can feel the excitement with that, Jan. And certainly ending this show tonight on such a high note, I totally agree. We are right there. We are on the edge of the cliff taking a peek at what the immediate future could actually be. You're absolutely right. Jan, thank you so much. And good luck at the MUFON Symposium coming up next month in Las Vegas. That's going to be exciting. And maybe I'll do a drive-by because I want to go to a casino. Okay?
Okay, great. We'd love to have you.
Thank you so much, Jan. Behave and be well.
I will. Thank you.
Jan Harzan and Peter Davenport, everybody. And that concludes our UFO Community Roundtable. Very special thanks to Lee Speigel, Micah Hanks, Ray Hobbs, John Burroughs, Mike Bara, John D'Souza, Steve Murillo, Tom Danheiser, of course, Jan Harzan, and Peter Davenport. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Faded by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. Thank you to everybody that participated tonight in this roundtable. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Until tomorrow night, Fader Night, open lines, John Rappaport, no more fake newsroom. Everybody be safe. Go back, Lee Tappy.